Once more into the breach, dear friends. Once more, or we'll fill this wall up with our English dead. We few, we happy few, we band of brothers. Those are the words of Henry V exhorting his troops into battle against the French. We happy few. Few because they were grossly outnumbered by the French. So why happy? Well, that really makes them heroes, doesn't it? We're so few. The honour, how much greater the honour to each of us. How much greater the victory if we win, and if we fall as heroes. Very jingoistic, very warmongering. Shakespeare, well, very much in keeping with the times, really. Days of chivalry and all that. But did Shakespeare really think like that? Because I'm going to show you a speech from another play by another character, also going into battle, but he expresses a very different opinion, a very different point of view. His name is Falstaff, and he is actually a friend of Henry V. First he says to him, actually addresses Henry V and says to him, I wish it were bedtime, Hal, and all well. No matter, honour pricks me on. Yeah. But what if honour prick me off when I come on? What then? Can honour set to a leg? No. Or an arm? No. Or take away the grief of a wound? No. Honour hath no skill in surgery then? No. What is honour? The word. What is in that word, honour? What is that honour? Air. Who hath it? He that died a Wednesday. Doth he feel it? Nope. Doth he hear it? Nope. It is insensible then. Yea, to the dead. But will it not live with the living? No. Why? Detraction will not suffer it. Therefore I'll none of it. Honour is a mere scutcheon, and there ends my catechism. Well, that's not very heroic, is it? Who does Shakespeare agree with, though? Is he expressing his own thoughts when he talks through Falstaff, or when he talks through Henry V? Well, it depends who you ask. Because for the last 400 years, anybody with an agenda has been using Shakespeare to plug it. Let's go to war, quote Henry V. Let's stay at home, quote Falstaff in Henry IV, Part 1. Let's look at another subject, The Tempest. This is a play about a duke, Prospero, and his daughter Miranda, who are marooned on a desert island which is inhabited by a primitive native called Caliban. Prospero and his daughter teach Caliban to speak and to read and write. They educate him. This would have been very topical to the English at that time, because that's exactly what the English were doing in the New Americas. Colonization. So what happens? Well, Caliban, having been educated, decides that he wants to marry the Duke's daughter. What does the father of the bride have to say about this? Thy vile nature, though thou learnest, had in it that which good natures could not abide to be with. Oh dear. What does Caliban have to say? This island is mine, by Sycorax my mother, which thou takest from me. The red plague rid you for learning me your language. In other words, you can keep your education, I was better off before you came along. Well, living in our times, we may be able to see Caliban's point of view, but I can assure you that over the reign of the British Empire, throughout all those years, English audiences would have sat smugly, happy in the knowledge and the surety that Caliban was a jolly lucky fellow to have Prospero land on his island. Now I'm going to take you to a really big subject. The subject of all time, the subject of all generations, the conflict, the battle of the sexes, the subject of women. What did Shakespeare think about women? Well, what did the Elizabethans think about women? Apparently, not a lot. Women in Elizabethan times had no rights whatsoever. A woman was the property of her father until she married, when she became the property of her husband, to do with her exactly as he pleased. And in the churches, the vicars were preaching, a woman, a dog, and a walnut tree, the more you beat them, the better they be. Charming. So did Shakespeare go along with this? Did he believe that women should be kept in their place? Or did he have other ideas? Well, the first place to look would be The Taming of the Shrew, because this play deals exactly with the subject of women in marriage. Kate, our protagonist, is a young woman with a big mouth, a bad temper, but a lot of money. Nobody wants to marry her until along comes Petruchio, who is looking for a wealthy wife. And he is undaunted by the bad temper. He is going to tame her, which he does very successfully by starving her, by depriving her of sleep, in fact, by depriving her of every human comfort, until she does, in fact, cave in completely, and she's prepared to agree that day is night, or the moon is the sun, anything, just for some peace. Well, so far not so surprising, we already knew the score. But at the end of the play, Shakespeare gives Kate a 45-line speech in which she lectures the women of the company on their duty to their husbands in front of the men. Thy husband is thy lord, thy life, thy keeper. And it gets worse. You are invited to peruse this speech at your leisure, but I can tell you, I went through it with a magnifying glass and I couldn't find any loopholes. So it does look like Shakespeare was a card-carrying misogynist. Except that by now you already know that I'm just about to give you an example of the exact opposite. Portia, from The Merchant of Venice. Let me introduce you to Portia and some of her friends. Portia is a beautiful young woman, intelligent, very wealthy, and she is about to marry Bassanio, an impecunious young man. Next to Bassanio, we have Bassanio's friend, Antonio, a wealthy merchant. Did I say friend? We're talking here very close. Nudge, nudge, wink, wink, say no more. Next to Antonio, we have Shylock, the Jewish usurer, moneylender, and Antonio owes him 3,000 ducats and can't pay, which means, according to the terms of their agreement, he has to forfeit his life.